Hey everybody, guess what time it is? It's request time on vaulting. This episode of Vaulting is a specially requested episode that was made by someone on my Patreon page. And that lucky individual just so happens to be Ryan Walterson. With his generous donation, he was able to get his own choice of movie, or in this case, movies, of his certain picking for me to review, joke about, analyze, or just go completely insane over. Regardless of the opinion itself, I would like to especially thank Ryan and his support for the show. If you want to be just like him and see a certain movie or a TV show of your choice, reviewed by moi, go over to patreon.com/vaulting, make a donation, tell me what you want me to review, and I'll work it into the show as best as I can. But, with that out of the way, I guess the number one thing that's on your mind today is, what movie or movies did Ryan want me to review for today? What did he specially pick for me to look into? When the real question you should be asking is, do you really want to know?
Standing in the middle of nowhere, wondering how to begin. Lost between tomorrow and yesterday, between now and then. Back where you started, here we go round again. Back where you started, come on, do it again, do it again, do it again. Back where we started, here we go round again. Day after day I get up and I say, do it again, do it again, do it again. Day after day I get up and I say, come on, do it again, do it again, do it again, do it again.
A long time ago in Season 3, I reviewed a movie called Buddy. It was bad, enough said. But the most significant thing about that ape flick was how it was part of an original deal that was made between Columbia Pictures and Jim Henson Productions. That, wasn't as bad as well as you would expect. The deal itself spanned over a 12-film contract with tons of unique ideas in the process. A good bulk of them were Muppet movies that showed great potential, but unfortunately a small string of financial flops canned those possibilities.
If at first you don't succeed, fail again.
As stated many years ago, I don't feel Jim Henson Pictures was at fault for any of them. I even reconsider that Buddy fell into that trap. While I still don't believe that one was a good movie, I did come across a longer cut of Buddy on television years ago that improved on certain aspects in the narrative and pace. And even though those scenes weren't a major improvement, at least they presented a curious case as whether there was some meddling going on behind the scenes. Henceforth, I give you Exhibit A, Muppets from Space. The first thing to note is how this movie ended up with 3 different screenplays, and both of them differed heavily from the final edit. One is written by ILM veteran and frequent Muppet collaborator Kirk Thatcher, which would have seen the Muppets as space travelers. Apparently it would have involved Kermit getting kidnapped by aliens and mistaken as their long-lost leader.
No, not E.T.
Instead, they went with Jerry Juhl's script, which also involved Gonzo meeting aliens that seemingly looked like him, but turned out to be something else. Now, personally, I love Jerry Juhl's writing, and his work on Fraggle Rock and the Muppet movie presents his great talent. However, I should note his version was constantly rewritten before production and even during filming. According to an interview with one of the writers, Joey Mazzarino, he described his experiences on the movie as miserable. Joey went as far as to say director Randall Kleiser of Grease and Flight of the Navigator was set to direct, but was let go when Jim Henson Pictures felt he didn't bring enough vision to the table. Worst of all, this happened near the start of filming. Thus, Tim Hill was hired on as a replacement. Tim Hill. Where have I heard that name before? Two things. One, Max Keeble's big move wasn't that bad. And second, I think his time as a writer on Rocko's Modern Life and the Action League Now Setting Some Kablam are a little more noteworthy. Basically, it ended up being the Muppet movie that the cast and crew didn't want. It also didn't help that Columbia Pictures placed as a summer blockbuster and went against many expected titles, some of which turned out to be surprise hits. Muppets from Space ended up being a box office disappointment by grossing only $16 million on a $24 million budget. The end result had critics and Muppet fans mixed over the final product, most of them leaning towards the negative side of things. And why is that? Why were so many devoted Muppet fans completely angered with this movie to the point they detested it to the end of the earth? Well, 4 simple words. Gonzo is an alien. Yep, the one thing Muppet fans either accepted or had a great dislike towards is the fact that they confirmed in this movie Gonzo is really a creature from outer space. Okay, it's one of the many reasons why a lot of Muppet fans really dislike this movie, but it's best to start with the elephant in the room. For the longest time, it was never confirmed if Gonzo was his own species, or if he was part of any kind of species at all. Come to think of it, he was never even meant to be labeled as an animal. Considering the Muppets were intended to be abstract designs of creatures, Jim and the crew often referred to Gonzo as a cross between a turkey and a pencil sharpener.
That actually makes sense.
As a devoted Muppet fan, I will be honest. I really didn't mind this retcon. I was 8 years old when I first saw this movie, and honestly, Gonzo was my all-time favorite Muppet. He was weird, different, strange, and his fur color was, well, my favorite color, blue. I didn't care at the time, I was just happy to see a movie all centered around him. But now that I'm older, and having seen this movie again after seeing it in the cinemas so long ago, I gotta admit, having him as an alien really doesn't change his character that much. It's not like he has special powers or certain abilities. On The Muppet Show, he did all of these crazy stunts, but I feel that was part of his character. He was a daredevil that liked to think outside the box.
Wait! He's sank into the oatmeal!
Don't worry! We got spoons and milk and brown sugar!
Yeah, we're gonna eat our way through to him!
By labeling Gonzo as an alien, it doesn't really change a whole lot about him. It just states he is a creature from outer space and that's it. Nothing new is really added. This information only serves as a character arc as we see Gonzo's depressed over the fact there is only one of him. This is presented right at the start of the movie when he has a nightmare where he can't get onto Noah's Ark. And I must confess, this is probably the funniest scene in the whole movie for me, but for the wrong reasons.
What is your species?
I don't know. I guess there's only one of me.
Then you are doomed!
Go ahead and scream your head off! We're miles from where anyone can hear you! I don't want to be alone!
I just love how over-the-top and hammy the execution is in this sequence. But then a few minutes later...
Well, okay, it's the one where I'm talking to this Noah guy and he won't let me on his boat because I'm all... alone.
I suddenly feel sad for some reason. I kinda regret my laughing. Then Gonzo starts to get messages in his cereal telling him to watch the sky. He goes to the rooftop where he gets struck by lightning. Okay, that seems kind of painful. And is taken up to meet a bunch of... fish?
We are cosmic knowledge fish. We are highly evolved beings. Now, if... what was I saying? Oh.
My people?
Makes you think, doesn't it? I mean, what's it all about? Beats me.
But enough of that weirdness, because it goes to what I feel is the most unintentional and creepiest moment I have seen in any Muppet movie.
That's it!
For the love of Frank Oz, don't play that in slow-mo! And before you can ask if this could get any creepier, I swear, between creepy-eyed Snuffleupagus and spiral-eyed Telemonster, if I go to sleep tonight, this will be the first thing that will haunt my nightmares! Aside from that imagery, here's what really bugs me about the movie. Gonzo keeps proclaiming he is an alien and finds out he has an extended family, and everyone just doesn't care. They sort of act uncomfortable most of the time, or feel they don't want to have anything to do with him. And considering how we see the Muppets live in this one house, it just feels out of character for them to act this way. Yeah, they would brush off Gonzo when he performs one of his zany acts, but they respect him for the Muppet he is at heart. Have we not forgotten there is a heart and soul to this character? He is not just a death-defying act all the time. In fact, come to think of it, a lot of heart is missing from this movie. If you look back to even the zaniest Muppet movies like The Great Muppet Caper, there is a center to it, even when they're just cracking jokes or breaking the fourth wall. They still present themselves as more than just creatures and beings that say one-liners. There's a heart and soul to these characters. They have faults, they have flaws, and that's something that's greatly missing here. Take for example this scene from The Great Muppet Caper when Kermit and Miss Piggy have an argument.
I don't need this lousy duck pond.
Sure you don't need a lousy
You
duck
just
pond.
walk.
Okay, sure, go ahead, walk, okay? Walk, sure, walk. Oh, go ahead and walk. Piggy.
I'm doing my best.
Well, I know you are. Piggy, I'm sorry. We gotta get back to the movie, though.
All right.
And now let's compare that to one scene in question that has bugged me through this very day. At the start, Gonzo asks Kermit for advice about his feelings of being alone, and all Kermit can say before he goes to solve an antic with Animal is,
You know what you are, Gonzo?
What?
Distinct.
and to bring it further home, we see pictures of all the Muppets with their other kind, while Gonzo is the only one. As if the message can be any more subtle enough.
Distinct, huh? More like extinct.
I know it probably sounds like I'm nitpicking this one little moment, but it just comes off as cruel. You have Kermit giving a half-assed response to Gonzo's problem, and then followed by an emotional moment that just feels forced to hammer it in. Now compare that to this scene from an episode of The Muppet Show when Gonzo actually decided to leave The Muppet Show to pursue a career in Bollywood.
I just don't want to go.
Yeah, but you're gonna go out and make movies.
I want to go there. I just don't want to leave here.
You had a choice to make Gonzo, and you made it, and it was a good choice.
I know.
I don't like long goodbyes, Gonzo, so, take care of yourself, Gonzo.
Yeah, you too.
Okay, so enough of that. How do the other Muppets hold up? Well, it's nice to see them play off each other here, and, well, even do some stuff from characters that came from Muppets Tonight, but I feel their chemistry here is kind of underwhelming. Even in previous Muppet movies, the smallest part gets some form of screen time. Here, there is not much of a focus. Kermit has this thing about going on vacation, fixing up the house that goes nowhere. Miss Piggy fights to become an anchor on some tabloid talk show on UFOs. Rizzo gets trapped with lab rats who act like they belong in a prison movie that's actually kind of funny.
We're just trying to play mind games here. But I know the cheese is safe, because you think I'm going for the poison, right? Huh?
And for everyone else, they're sort of there to crack a one-liner or just make an appearance. Once in a while, some of them will get a funny joke to say, but even then, it's nothing really knee-slapper-worthy.
Oh, come on, please. You think Ted Koppel never gets excited?
There are no aliens here, only good, old-fashioned, hard-working Americans.
Is breakfast over?
No, why?
Because I think the bacon just ran out.
Another weird thing that some people point out that I probably should mention is that the Muppets don't even sing once throughout the whole movie. In fact, the soundtrack goes for sort of a 1970s funky disco kind of vibe, which could work in its own way, but Yeah, for a movie where you have the Muppets cracking jokes and don't even have them sing once, what's even the point of having this kind of soundtrack? We're not even going to sing these tunes. Wouldn't it be great if they actually were singing Brick House instead of seeing a montage of them doing funny things to Brick House? Okay, technically, there is one number that is sung, but again, I'm not going to give away for spoiler purposes. But considering how these guys work the way to sing, dance, and entertain you, it's kind of weird when you only get 2/3 of those things in a feature like this. The same can be said of the celebrity cameos, too. Again, something that is a big part of the Muppet movie tradition, and it feels really botched here. The past movies would get some big-name people to be in these roles. While they're not too distracting, it was always fun to see people interacting with them. I always had a theory that whatever celebrities they got for said Muppet movie often reflected the time period the movie was released out on. And who do they get for this masterpiece? F. Murray Abraham, David Arquette, Josh Charles, Kathy Griffin, Rob Schneider, 2 people from Dawson's Creek, and Hulk Hogan?
Hey, what you gonna do? I'm a bad guy now.
Really? Is that the best you can do here? Again, maybe I'm just nitpicking here, but some of these cameos just don't make sense or feel awkwardly shoved in. Some of them do work, like David Arquette as a demented lab scientist.
See, no one's ever escaped from the maze, funny boy.
No.
And even if you did, it's 4 feet to the ground, 12 feet to the door, and 4 feet to the doorknob. Funny thing about doorknobs, rats can't turn them. No opposable thumb.
But then you have ones like Hulk Hogan appearing as a secret agent, and he only exists to send Rizzo down a hole. His appearance in Gremlins 2 was more credible.
Do I have to come up there myself? Do you think the Grimsters can stand up to the Hulkster?
The only theory I can think of is maybe the rush production schedule didn't allow them to get the people they needed, and they just ended up with who they could afford with. And that's a big shame considering how much missed opportunities are left open. At this time in the late 1990s, science fiction was big in the mainstream again thanks to movies like Independence Day and Men in Black. And the only thing this movie does to acknowledge their existence are these jokes.
Release me.
Get me the subatomic neutral destabilizer. Oh, the really big gun.
The really big gun. Really big gun.
Clip.
Flip. Wow.
You know, here's an idea. Why didn't they just go after veteran actors from science fiction movies? You know, people from the Star Trek franchise, Twilight Zone, Alien, or if you want to be that desperate, go for the X-Files. By far, the one that is the most puzzling to me is Jeffrey Tambor. He plays a character named K. Edgar Singer, the head of a secret agency.
Cleverly disguised as a cement factory.
Very funny. Anyway, they're trying to prove that aliens exist, and I'm going to be really honest here. I have no idea what he is doing half the time. His character motive is that he's trying to prove aliens exist, but feels crushed when his proof is seen as pure nonsense or unsupportive. This angle could work for something like Simon the Monster Hunter from Our Real Monsters because the comedy is in how hell-bent this guy is to prove his claim. Here, I feel Tamor's cold delivery just comes off as awkward. You could argue the joke is he plays it so serious and uptight to the point it's too weird to take seriously, but it just feels off-putting to me.
Do you have any idea what it's like to be to be laughed at?
Yeah, sure I do.
To be called names like wacko.
Oh, yeah.
And paranoid, delusional psychopath.
That got me there.
To feel completely alone in this world.
Yeah, I think we're starting to get the general idea there, Ed.
Yeah.
Some of it does work when he's interacting with his assistant Bobo, which does get a couple of chuckles out of me. But when he is trying to be intimidating towards other characters, it sort of fails because of how he's built up to be this bad guy, but not in a fun way. I know not every Muppet villain can be the next Doc Hopper or Nick Holliday, but here it's kind of a shame when David Arquette's energetic cameo is more interesting than this. So despite a lot of underwhelming elements I found here, I will admit there are a couple things that at least make this movie watchable. Muppeteer Bill Barretta almost steals the show as Pepe the King Prong and Bobo the Bear, who plays a character named Rentro for some reason. Why have they named that? Anyway, these two are such polar opposites that it's interesting to see how much life and personality Bill puts into them. They get some good laughs, and again, it's nice to see they brought over some characters from Muppets tonight, even if the show is a bit par for the course in some areas. They even give Dr. Phil Van Neuter a pretty funny sequence with some great banter between him and Gonzo.
Let's see here. Do you now, or have you ever experienced any achiness in your tentacles?
I don't have tentacles.
Oh, good. How about that beaky thing you've got there? Ever had any problems with that? Itching, swelling, flaking?
Well, some flaking a couple years ago.
Oh, who cares? It's showtime!
But wait!
What is it?
Are you sure this is covered by my HMO?
Oh, good news! You're covered with a $10 copay.
But the biggest reason has to be the ending. I won't spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it, but I will give it this much. It provides something energetic, colorful, fun, and above all, rewarding. I might have dropped some hints earlier on, but screw it. You just have to see in order to understand what I'm talking about. This is probably the only redeeming thing of the entire movie. But even then, you kinda have to sit through a lot of crud here and there in order to get to it. Even that, Muppets from Space was a botched project from the start. Nobody had a clue as to what anyone would receive from it. It was so rushed that Welch's Jelly's promotional tie-in was modeled after one of the earlier drafts that differed from the final product. I would even go as far as to say their appearance on Wheel of Fortune feels kinda last minute. And the sad thing is, I remember seeing it.
Say, do you think Vanna will let me keep the dress?
On the other hand, you have Exhibit B. The Adventures of Elmo in Grouchland. No, stop the booing, come on! Hold the bus! Do I look like an angry movie critic? Am I some old man sitting in front of the camera screaming about how bad these kid movies are and whining about it? Hey, it's me you're watching. Granted, I'm not pleased with past episodes on my own shows. I feel some things deserved a more fair evaluation. But that's all part of growing up. And personally, it's more reasonable to get mad at something audience insulting like Wired in comparison to something that more for the younger crowd like Barney's Great Adventure. And yes, I am aware that Elmo in Grouchland has a cult following going on and has some better reviews than Muppets from Space. And I have nothing against that little red furry creature at all, I really don't. I just think he's a little more interesting when he's interacting with other characters. Considering the personality of Elmo is supposed to match that of a 3-and-a-half-year-old mentality, I find it more interesting when he has to think about how to interact with other friends or find solutions to certain problems. But when he's on his own, his energetic persona can get somewhat tiresome, but not even close to annoyance for me. But so many people love that little red Muppet, thus making a movie about him made sense. Was it a good story? Well, not really. Are there good things to talk about it? Yeah. Does it come together in one significant package? Well, if I have to be very brutally honest here, I feel about it as the same way I do for Muppets from Space. Not the worst, not the best, just average. The basic idea came out when they questioned what was it like to be inside Oscar's trash can. I admit, it was a good stepping stone to get into. We rarely even get a glimpse of what goes on inside there. And sure enough, we see he has a doorway to another world. Okay. But if you want to know how Elmo gets there, it's a bit of a crazy explanation. He tries to cheer up his best friend Zoe when she's unable to go to the zoo and she takes interest in Elmo's blanket. This blanket just so happens to be Elmo's prized possession, his one thing he can never part with. He even has an entire song devoted to it while the blanket has some kind of personification going on. Okay.
Together forever in rain or sun. We do things like two, but we're really one.
So Elmo feels uncomfortable about sharing one of his most cherished items, and it results in them having a tug-of-war where this happens.
I didn't mean it. It was an accident. Zoe's not Elmo's friend anymore. What? I'm not your friend.
Oh, don't worry. We'll get back to that. And as if life couldn't get any more random. Now, if this were Season 2 of Vaulting, you most likely would see young me rant and rage on about how ill-conceived it was to get Elmo's blanket into Oscar's trash can. But I'm a little more concerned at the fact that you have Elmo entering in Oscar's trash can without asking. Hey kids, today's episode of Vaulting is brought to you by the letters B and E. As in... breaking and entering! But we need a motivation for Elmo to get into Grouchland, even if it's not as creative as we hoped. Once he goes down the rainbow-coated wormhole whatchamacallit wibbly-wobbly timey-wimey tunnel of fun... I swear, somewhere in that wormhole there's a TARDIS seeing all of this. Elmo lands in the topsy-turvy world that is described in a decent song that sets the silly atmosphere up. I admit, part of me feels mixed about this. The overall design of the sets and inhabitants are unique and looks rightfully colorful, but maybe it's my own adult mind, but when I think of Grouchland, I usually think of something more grungy and dirty. For the most part, this is very much eye candy with some visual jokes that do get a laugh out of me.
You like me! You really like me! Now get out of here! Get my good side! Oh, that's...
That is until you get introduced to the villain of this world named Huxley, who is played by...
Which one of you dares to question my evil ways?
Oh my god! No, man. Oh, it's Mandy Patinkin with bushy Oscar eyebrows. I'm just imagining the costume department combing those little fuzzy caterpillars on his legs. Yep, Inigo Montoya plays a bad guy who just steals stuff and claims he owns them. One of these include...
Elmo's blanket!
You're wrong. You see, I didn't borrow this blanket. I didn't rent this blanket. Heck, I didn't even take out a 36-month lease on this blanket. Oh. Bing! I own it!
Yep. The rest of this movie is just Elmo marching around in Grouchland just to get to Huxley's house so he can get his blanket back and learn a couple of lessons on the way.
What a thrill.
So, the story is about as basic as you can get with a Sesame Street movie. A simple hero's journey that younger audiences can watch without harm. And that's sort of my issue with the movie. It's mostly harmless. I'm not saying this movie needs to go to dark places or anything, but it feels like nothing of major risk is at stake. And I should feel bad for Elmo getting his blanket taken away, but there is one question that constantly bugs me about this.
Why is that little red furball so determined to get this blanket?
In fact, he just took the words right out of my mouth. Not to look too deep into this, but what is Elmo's personal connection with this blanket? Sure, in the opening he sings about how it's his best friend and see it come to life. At least I think it's Elmo's imagination that is doing the living blanket thingy, but I feel like there isn't much of a deeper reason here. Or even a purpose for that matter. To compare, in Pee-wee's Big Adventure, we understand why Pee-wee is devastated when his bike is stolen, and understand why he goes to great lengths just to get it back. His bike is literally the coolest thing on this planet, and he uses it for a lot of things. Though, this is more of a materialistic understanding. If you want a more heartfelt example, in the movie Rugrats in Paris, we see Chucky clinging on to a teddy bear that his mother made for him before she passed away. This creates a perfect metaphor on how much Chucky doesn't want to let go of the past, while this other mother wants to force change on him. It really works on an emotional level and helps you connect to his problem. They have a seed of an idea here, but I don't think it's fully realized. You can't view Elmo's blanket as something materialistic because there's many advantages to it. And they never explain if this is something his parents got him or if it was presented as a gift from his friends on Sesame Street. In fact, wouldn't it be a neat twist if on the tag of his blanket it reads something like, "From your friends of Sesame Street"? It'd be so simple, but it would explain so much. However, I did not write the script, and that wasn't the movie's intention. Though I should probably bring up in one of the earlier drafts, originally Elmo was going to have a ball lost in Grouchland, but one of the writers said, no, 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 make it a blanket. Yeah. In fact, I feel for a short movie, they pack in too many messages and morals that it kind of feels unfocused. 1 minute it's about sharing, then it's about never giving up, then it's about working together and fighting for something, knowing who your real friends are, and don't get me wrong, these are good messages and I can stand by them. But I almost feel like there's too much crammed in. I believe younger viewers will resonate a little more with the message of sharing among friends, and that's kind of where I feel the heart of this movie should have been. And then there's this weird detour when he meets the Queen of Trash, played by Vanessa Williams. Pfft, Vanessa Williams is the Queen of Trash. I'd be more flattered if they went with Linnea Quigley on this one here. Oh, and I would reference Return of the Living Dead, seeing her character's name as Trash, but there's 2 reasons why I can't. First, I could have kids watching this episode. And second, I have to talk about this weird thing.
Elmo just wants to get his blanket back from Huxley, because it's mine.
Well, you certainly sound like Huxley.
No, no, it's Elmo's blanket. It's mine, 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 mine.
Where do I begin? First off, Elmo was not acting greedy. He was just a little teensy insecure about a personal thing being shared with someone else that had some sort of significance that was not well developed. And second, this whole topic about knowing how to share, when to share, and cooperation was kind of explored a little better in the direct-to-video segment that even Sesame Street covered a little better on here. Yeah, we see Elmo thinking about his decisions and the actions they create. We see different scenarios presented for kids so they can prepare themselves if they come across stuff like this. Again, a perfect testament to what they can do in presenting these kind of life lessons in comparison to a full-length movie that is trying to do the same thing, and yet it doesn't work in certain spots. So, okay, the message or messages seem a little botched up here. What about the entertainment factor? Well, from a technical standpoint, there are some cool-looking visuals. A lot of the sets were crafted from actual junk and stuff from flea markets. They even reused some puppets from the garbage episode of the Jim Henson Hour, which is a fitting excuse to put in some obscure Muppets that we haven't seen for a long time into a project like this.
Oh, that's a load of garbage. Or actually, I'm a load of garbage.
That's for sure.
For a low-budget movie that relies on tone and forced perspective and minimal CGI, it's actually kind of effective, and impressive to say the least. At a time when practical effects were dying down, they use a lot to their advantage. But then, we have them catering to the younger folks. In something that weirdly predates Oogie Loves, there are moments when Elmo asks upon the audience for help, and even go as far as to have audience noise reacting to these scenes. There's call-outs, audience talkbacks, and even a moment where you have to give raspberries.
Can you please help Elmo do raspberries like this? Come on! You can do it! You're doing great!
Look, Ma! No brains!
And if this was intended to be an interactive movie, why can't you just release it straight to video? It would do fine there. Kids would have the will to jump around, shout at the screen, and do all these other activities without being in a darkly lit room surrounded by other children and adults in the theater.
Now, come on, Bert. Let's go find out what happens to Elmo.
Okay, good, great. Ernie? Problem.
Don't get too close to the screen, Bert, or otherwise the mysterious nose snatcher might strike again. Oh, right. I almost forgot about this. There's a weird running gag with Ernie and Bert as they constantly stop the movie just so they could explain what is going on. And as much as I love Ernie and Bert, I feel this adds nothing to the story and literally stops the movie to the point it gets distracting. If you cut out every scene they appear in, I am certain this movie would flow better in pace. Then again, there is one funny joke that I do actually really like.
In fact, I'm sure good things will happen, because who'd want to see a movie with a sad ending, Bert?
Titanic.
What?
Titanic had a sad ending.
Oh, no, Bert. Roll the film. Come on, Bert. Come on.
Gone with the Wind.
No, Bert. No.
Dr. Zhivago.
Shh, quiet, Bert.
And then there's this scene where Elmo runs into a giant chicken performed by David Goles that gets some weird laughs out of me. I can't really put my finger on why, though. It could be the design of the chicken, the weird banter they have, or just how bizarre this scene is executed.
But worms aren't red, are they?
Oh, well, sometimes. Well, no. Well, couldn't they be?
No, no.
Will you just be quiet so I can eat you?
Now, if the movie had more bizarre scenes like this, I would definitely be on board with it. And furthermore, doesn't this seem very familiar? Character gets something taken away from them, they have to go through this entire weird journey, labyrinth of a maze in order to get it back. And along the way they learn some life lessons about themselves, how to improve themselves. It just sounds so familiar. I can't just... Do I even need to say anything else? I'm certain the comparisons are considered coincidental, even down to a T. And even if this was intentional, which I highly doubt, the connection feels weird. So, is there anything else positive to talk about? Well, the songs are tolerable, and there is a couple that are near hum-worthy, but they're not standouts like anything from Follow That Bird or stuff written by Paul Williams. But you get a fun little tune once in a while. The villain Huxley is probably the only salvaging thing to see this movie for. Mandy goes so over the top of this role that he makes it worth the trip. He's campy, loony, and very much the right definition of a Muppet movie villain. The motive might be a little too skimpy and simplistic, but I just love how bizarrely committed he is to this. And that goes for everyone else. I feel a lot of the time we do get to see a lot of talent and effort being poured into this. The Muppet performers, the human actors and actresses, and even the special effects. This and Muppets from Space are actually the first time they experimented with removing the rods from the puppets digitally. That's honestly something I never noticed until now. Well, aside from one or two full-body Muppet shots that don't look perfectly good. It's weird because I appreciate Grouchland more for the technical work as opposed to the story. Does that make it a better movie than Muppets from Space? Oh, not quite. Both have their own flaws and positives. However, I find them to be both average. They don't take big enough risks like previous Muppet movies, and even the heart at times is not in the right place. As much as they try to, though, it still doesn't quite work. And as tempted as I am to compare Grouchland to Follow That Bird, it would be rather unfair. Follow That Bird is the better movie, but it deals with different themes, different concepts, and was made in a different time. But I have the unfortunate task of admitting that I remember having more fun at that movie for a particular reason. It appealed to both audiences. This is where both movies suffer the most for me. Muppets from Space and Elmo and Grouchland came out at a time when the Muppets and Sesame Street were seen as kiddie fodder. To know for years Jim Henson strived to prove his creations are more than just a children's toy, and to see these two feature films present them in a different light that he feared for kinda bugs me. There is a middle ground here where you can have these characters be universally enjoyed by kids and grown-ups. But I still give the benefit that they tried and were not colossal failures, or the worst thing in existence. That title of Worst Muppet Movie Ever really goes to Kermit's swamp years. Ooh, I have issues. Major issues. But that's another story for another day. Bottom line, both Muppet movies are not good, but I can safely say they're not god-awful either. They're not bad enough for me to hate, but I don't think I will revisit them anytime sooner. I heard both have their own fan base, and if you enjoy these movies, good for you. I won't judge. As for me, I just don't feel these were the Muppets' finest hour, in my opinion. It was a good attempt nonetheless, but, well, let's hope there's some better in the future for them. As for me, I'm actually kind of getting a little fatigued from all these crummy movies coming my way. I mean, there has to be something I can review that's at least good, wholesome, heartful, and has some great stuff to talk about. Something that's just... Why didn't I think of that before? I'm gonna take on... Did I say I was gonna take on a good movie? No. No, I'm not. No, why would I do that? No, I'm pulling everybody's leg here. I'm not gonna do anything good. I'm gonna do crap. Absolute, pure, unconcentrated crap. And why is that, you ask?
Oh, I love crap. Acting that is wooden or loony. Stupid plot holes or retcons or reboots. Yes, I love crap.
Let's see what's in the jar today. Ooh.
I have here a movie that doesn't hold up. The plot kinda drags and the characters suck. But it's worth it to see the baffling stuff. I enjoy it because it's crap. Oh, I love crap. Acting that is wooden or loony. Stupid plot holes or retcons or reboots. Yes, I love crap. Sequels that just failed and cheap special effects. Chris Elliott movies and whatever this is. And I'm thankful to see that they all exist. I love it because it's crap. Oh, I love crap. Acting that is wooden or loony. Stupid plot holes or retcons or reboots. Yes, I love crap.
I think before you answer that question, you better be real clear on the final destination of that finger.
Cut.
Hey, can we get some water in here? Thanks.
I didn't get any. Thank you.